Good morning, good afternoon, whatever time of day it is that you are listening, folks. Thank you very, very much for listening. Today is the 24th of June, year of our Lord 23rd of June, year of our Lord 2025. Welcome to yet another edition of the Coping Hour, hosted by Nicholas Engel, a.k.a. Motown Noah. The Oklahoma City Thunder ceremoniously crowned as NBA champions a little under 12 hours ago. Actually, it hasn't even quite been 12 hours that they've been champions. As far as we know, half the team could still be awake, rolling on. So honestly, this doesn't really seem like the team that would go on a bus after a game, or like, I don't know. I was going to say they're probably still like rolling on MDMA or some shit like that. I don't really think it's that kind of team. If we look at the roster, let's not start the Oklahoma City just won a championship episode by being like, who do you think is on drugs right now? We don't have to start it that way. Instead, let's do the world famous segment here at the Coping Hour. If you're new around here, what we like to do every time a team wins a championship, what I've always done is the mental exercise of going up and down the roster, reading everybody's name, followed by NBA champion, just to see how it feels, right? And then we kind of talk ourselves through it. Does it feel crazy? Does it feel right? Does it feel like something we've been expecting to happen and now it finally has? Does it feel gross? Without further ado, let's start with the head of the snake. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, NBA champion, finals MVP, regular season MVP, all-NBA, scoring champion, all-star, averaged 30 points a game in the NBA Finals, was incredible in that closeout Game 7, and coming off of a game in Game 6 where I think he may have faced the most suffocating defense that he maybe has in his entire career. Indiana collapsing on him the second he crosses half court. He had a career high 8 turnovers. I think it's a career high between post and regular season, between Oklahoma City and the Clippers. Someone can correct me on this. I don't think he's ever had 8 turnovers in a game before. So for him to come out of that Game 7 with only 1, and I'm pretty sure it was a fake turnover. He played 90% of the game without a turnover. Incredible. And I think when you think about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in the context of an NBA champion, I just can't help but think of him as a guy that is so hated. But when you just like listen to him talk, like very literally when you just hear his voice and you listen to the way that he carries himself and you listen to the way that he talks about his team and you listen to the way that he talks about the fans and the city of Oklahoma City, it's kind of bizarre, honestly. And that's not to say that, you know, when I hear him talk, I'm kind of like, wow, I feel bad for hating on you. I don't, but, you know, there is the part of you where it's like, man, maybe you are actually kind of a cool guy. So Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, NBA champion, MVP of the finals. Aaron Wiggins, NBA champion. No notes. It's cool. Isaiah Joe, NBA champion. Lou Dort. Wow. Lou Dort, NBA champion. Now, again, in a segment where we should otherwise be giving everybody their flowers, is it worth pointing out that I don't think a guy who is built like Lou Dort should be able to get as many whistles as he does in terms of like drawing offensive fouls? Because either all those muscles are on some like BBL shit and they're not real, or like you're flopping, which is what's happening. And he just kind of gets away with it like all the time. But it's cool that he did this as a guy who was an undrafted free agent. Oklahoma City was like the only team that saw anything in him. I think he went to, is he an Arizona State guy? If he is, and I'm right about that, Arizona State is not a school that, you know, has that many good basketball players come out of it. It would be just like regular Arizona, the Wildcats, that have all the guys come out. So for him to carve out the role that he has for Oklahoma City, and through this rebuild, I don't know if there's been a guy who has been treated more dispensably than, is that the right word for it, than Lou Dort, where anytime in the last couple of years, you know, the last 5-6 years since Oklahoma City has really committed to this quote unquote rebuild, I think Lou Dort is always one of the names that you've kind of heard thrown out there. Did I say dispensable? I think maybe disposable. Expendable is the word here too. He was always the guy that would get thrown into these fake trades because, and I don't want to get too ahead of myself here, but because we all kind of convinced ourselves, maybe outside of Oklahoma City fans, that the only way that OKC was going to be able to pull off a championship is if they actually cashed in on all of the assets that they have, mainly the capital that they have. You have to throw contracts in there. And Lou Dort always felt like he was going to be one of those contracts, but he wasn't. And he could be one day, but he wasn't. And he won an NBA championship with the Oklahoma City Thunder, the only team that gave him a chance, and was such an integral piece of that, and has been along the way, right? Such an important piece of that core. So Lou Dort, NBA champion, it's hard to hate on that one. It's hard. So I'm not going to. Jalen Williams, J-Dub, the J-Dubster, Santa Clara's finest, NBA champion. Love it. No notes. That's just cool. It's just really cool. And in some way, when you think about the two-headed snake between SGA and Jalen Williams, I think they made a mention of this on the broadcast last night. I think it was Richard Jefferson. You get into this late game situation, and they're kind of running some two-man stuff, which was very akin to what we had seen in the past with Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, where Shea will handle the ball, and it's Jalen's responsibility to slip out and find the soft spot. And Shea will find him, and Jalen Williams will knock down the shot. So, J-Dub's been a guy that in recent episodes how do I say this? I don't want to speculate, hypothesize. We've imagined a scenario where Jalen is the number one option on a team. And I think he and Jaylen Brown are kind of at the top of the pyramid with this thing, where it's like, what would happen? What would happen and what would that look like? I don't know how to explain how my brain arrives at this conclusion. I think it would go better for Jalen Williams than it would for Jaylen Brown, but we may see that. We may see Jaylen Brown get his own team this summer. I don't know. I imagine actually if he did end up getting traded, if he is the main domino that the Celtics want to fall this summer and something does happen and he is the one that gets traded, it's not going to be to a team like Charlotte where he's going to be running the show. It would be to an actual quote unquote contender. But also, I don't want to get too ahead of myself. Maybe we'll come back to the Jaylen Brown thing in a second. And at this point, at this very moment, I'm not too sure that he's the one that you'd be trading if you're the Celtics. But Jalen Williams, it's hard not to be happy for him, because that's another guy that when you just hear him talk and you just learn more about him as a guy, it's impossible not to be happy for him. Kenrich Williams, it is possible to not be happy for him. Never liked him. But Kenrich Williams, NBA champion. And it's the thing that you might be expecting. Yeah, it's the hair. The hair has always bothered me. I've always thought it was dumb. And because of that, I've just been like, not good. Stamped, sealed, signed. She's not my lover like Billie Jean, but the kid is mine. Kenrich Williams, NBA champion. But that's too bad. Cason Wallace, NBA champion. A guy that I've wanted on the Pistons for a while now. And I think he had some really good moments in these playoffs, and especially in these NBA finals. He did, in Game 7, have a sequence where TJ McConnell gave him 8 straight points. Whoops. Didn't matter. NBA champion, Cason Wallace. Isaiah Hartenstein, NBA champion. Love it. Love it. A guy who's been a journeyman at this point. I guess I can click on this. So without looking at his basketball reference, the teams that I can think of off the top of my head that Isaiah Hartenstein has played for, in no particular order: Oklahoma City, New York, the Clippers, the Cavs, and then I think there was maybe one other team. Houston, Denver, Cleveland, Clippers, Knicks, Thunder. That's what it was. And so for him to, within the last couple of years, I think it was really with the Clippers that he started to show what he's capable of. And then I don't remember how he ended up in New York, if it was through virtue of free agency or if it was a trade. But I remember him leaving the Knicks and thinking, I think it may have been, I don't know if the Knicks could have paid him. Maybe that's why he left. But I remember thinking, A, that's going to suck for the Knicks because we didn't know they were going to get Karl Anthony Towns. And B, oh, wow, that's big for the Thunder. And it's just cool when a team does cap scheduling and they know we have an insanely young core between SG, the guys that we haven't had to extend yet, and they're on small deals, they're on rookie scale deals. And we have this chunk of money that we can spend now at a position of need. And then by the time that contract is up, you imagine that all of the young guys, like in this instance, it would be like Chet Holmgren. By the time the Hartenstein contract is up, while all of the guys that we've been waiting to pay are good at this point. So it's kind of like Isaiah Hartenstein very much serving his purpose for Oklahoma City. He was fine in the finals, but he's been instrumental in Oklahoma City's success all season long. So for him to win a championship, I think is cool. I think he's a really likable guy, and he's a really fun player to watch. And I think anywhere that he's been, people have enjoyed him. Sort of like Christian Wood before he got to Houston, because after Detroit, everything kind of went downhill. He was good for Houston for a little bit. He was in the good graces of Rockets fans for a little bit until he wasn't. And then it was the same thing with Laker fans. But by the time Christian Wood had gotten to Detroit, the dude had played for the Bucks, the Sixers, the Hornets, I think he played for maybe the Magic. I think it was a team in Florida. He had played for like 6 teams and just nobody wanted him. And it was weird. And then Detroit was the team that we picked him up in the preseason, and the last roster spot came down to him or Joe Johnson, like a 37-year-old Joe Johnson. And we were really worried that Christian Wood was going to get cut. Didn't end up happening, and blah, blah, blah. The rest is history. Detroit ended up not re-signing Christian Wood, and he went to Houston. But Isaiah Hartenstein, good for him. Alex Caruso, NBA champion squared. 2 of them. I don't know if you saw the quote he had in the post-game presser, where he, in a joking way, he said, "I finally got a real one. Nobody can say anything now." What he's referencing is, of course, the bubble championship that the Lakers won. Everybody, calls it a Mickey Mouse ring. We'll get to this. People are already saying that this doesn't count for Oklahoma City because of the Halliburton thing, and that's not true, but we'll get to all that in a second. Alex Caruso, I did something last night in Game 7 that I never really do in basketball. I just watched him for like 10 minutes of like real time. On both ends of the floor, I was like not even paying attention to the ball, but specifically on defense. Oklahoma City was doing this thing. They've done it all year, but the second that you cross half court, you're getting trapped by Alex Caruso and Isaiah Hartenstein and Jalen Williams and Casey Walls and Aaron Wiggins. And what Alex Caruso does so well is just disrupt. And not to sound, this isn't the show where we do like technique and we get into the whatever. But I was paying attention to Alex Caruso's hips and how square he always keeps them and how he's always on his toes. And he's always, it's the distance that he is away from the ball, and he's just always able to, let's say he was guarding Nembhard, right? And Nembhard passes out to Pascal Siakam. Pascal Siakam will ride a screen, and Alex Caruso just kind of hovers close enough to be able to like either deflect a pass, jump a passing lane, or like kind of like get a little into the ball and cause a deflection. And even if it's not a turnover, it still disrupts the flow of the possession. And man, it's the like intangible shit that he does. That the fact that another thing, I don't want to keep talking about this because we've said it a lot on the show in the last month. Like, dog, Oklahoma City stole Alex Caruso from the Bulls. They gave up on a player, Josh Giddey, that they were done with him. And they got Alex Caruso out of it. And for him to have 2 rings is wild. It's always one thing when this may seem like I'm throwing a shot. I'm not. It's just the first name that came to mind. Like, wow, Chris Middleton has 1 ring. Like, that's really, really cool. But like, it's such a different context when a guy has 2 and not like a superstar. You know what I mean? Alex Caruso has 2 rings. Awesome for him. Blasian Williams, NBA champion. Wow. Impressed. Does he kind of look a little bit like, what's Kai Cenat's friend? Is it, it's not Dennis, it's Duke Dennis. He looks like him a little bit. He's like, they don't have the same skin color, but I think their face and their hair, they kind of remind me of the same. I hate Duke Dennis, and I don't mind, because he's such a little pretty boy fucker, and he's just so annoying. Like, he knows that he's a good-looking guy, and when he raps, he's like, oh, everyone's like, oh my God, he sounds like Future, and he's like, oh, do I sound like Future? I had no idea. It's like, you fucking know what you're doing. He's just so annoying. Love Kai, hate Duke Dennis. That about does it. There's nobody else here that's worth mentioning, except Mark Dagnall, NBA champion. Whoa. I had no idea what to do with that. I was watching the celebration last night, and Lisa Salters is, up on the podium talking to Mark Dagnall, and I'm just like looking at him, and I'm doing this in my head. I'm looking at him. I'm like, NBA champion, NBA champion, NBA champion. This isn't like a hater thing. I mean this like he's such a boring guy that we don't like know that much about because he's not very animated. This team they just play very much within themselves and they are about themselves and there aren't characters on this team. Like they're very fun and they all love each other. There are like characters. The post game, not the post game, but like when a sideline reporter after a game, whether it be a locally or nationally televised broadcast, is talking to like Shea Gilgeous-Alexander or Alex Caruso, and like the entire team comes over and starts throwing towels on them, or they throw towels on the sideline reporter or warm-ups or whatever it is. They are very fun, and it is like very much a brotherhood. But what I'm saying is you don't have these outspoken people on the team. They all keep to themselves. They're all very reserved, and I think that starts with Dagnall. And so I don't really have that much to say other than he was the orchestrator of one of the most dominant defensive teams in the history of the NBA, one of the best regular and postseasons that we've ever seen from a team ever. They won 68 games in the regular season, and then so you play first round, second round, third round, fourth round, 4 times 4, 16. 68 plus 10, 78 plus 6. They won 84 games this year. And then, folks, this is, I think, where this is what I care about in the context of Oklahoma City winning a championship, right? Sam Presti, NBA champion, the architect of the most calculated rebuild we have ever seen. And the most, there's a word here that I can't think of as it relates to the timeline. But calculated, I guess, is maybe the one that I'll just revisit, because when you think about the swings and the misses that he's had, there have been so few of them. And for us to take it back to what I briefly mentioned earlier, now is the time for me to actually talk about it. We, as fans, again, outside of Oklahoma City, have spent so long talking about either piss or get off the pot with all of these picks that you're hoarding, right? You control at least 40% of the first round picks between now and the end of the decade. It's unknowable. The second round picks, I have no idea, right? And so at some point, either those picks are just going to depreciate and they won't matter, or you just kind of hold on to them for the right time. There have been moments where I think a lot of us thought that the right time had arrived. Namely, think back to the last 2 trade deadlines when we were like, the Cam Johnson thing is going to happen. I think they're going to go get Cam Johnson because nobody else was going to be able to. Cam Johnson was going to fetch a pretty steep price. I don't know if it was going to be quite in the Mikal Bridges territory where it was 5 first-round picks. Maybe it was more like Desmond Bane where it was 4 and a swap. Maybe it's 3 and a swap. I don't know what it is. Oklahoma City is the team that dictates every single trade in the NBA. If Oklahoma City wants a player, your favorite team is not going to be able to get them, right? Because it's not even just about the picks, it's also about the players. You have to give something up in order to get something, right? Like meaningful. Oklahoma City can give up a lot of meaningful shit and it not really make a dent in the war chest, the treasure trove that Sam Presti has spent the last 6-7 years building up. Like, it really started with the Paul George trade, and that was one hell of a jump start, right? They got 100 picks for Paul George. And for that to come around and the eye for talent that Sam Presti has had, and for us to just be wrong in the end that they never had to do any of that. They never had to part ways with any meaningful assets or any meaningful players, and they were still one of the more dominant teams in the history of the NBA. Spearheaded by a guy who had one of the most impressive and efficient scoring seasons in the history of the NBA. It's awesome. It's awesome. When you think about, GMs in the NBA in the last 10 years, who we perceive and we think about consciously. We don't think about Monty McNair that much. Who's the GM in Portland? I can't think of his. I can see his face. I cannot think of his name right now. It's going to piss me off. There are GMs that you don't think about. I don't think we're going to think about Joe Dumars that much in New Orleans, right? Gun to my head, couldn't tell you who the GM in Orlando is. But you have the Daryl Moreys of the world. You have the Rob Pelinkas of the world, the Nico Harrisons of the world, right? If you stretch the timeline a little bit, go beyond 10 years, the Sam Hinkies of the world, where their grand visions are made clear to us, and we're able to sort of nitpick them and chronicle them in real time because they are vocal about what their plans are. Daryl Morey is the example here, right? Like, that is a guy who isn't afraid to get in front of a microphone and talk about, like, why he's done things in the past and, like, maybe what he wants to do in the future. And so it's so much easier to criticize it when you are as transparent as somebody like that is. Sam Presti has not been, like, transparent about what his ambitions... Well, of course his ambition was to win a championship, but, like, you get what I'm saying here. For a GM to be as, quote-unquote, high profile as Sam Presti has been, and for it to work, like, I don't want to say on the first try, because last year, were they the 1 seed or the 2 seed? We all knew they were going to get bounced in the second round, but that we were okay with that. We were like, this is a young team and they just need the experience, and it's not really about this year, despite the fact that they had so much success in the regular season. So then you get to this season, and I really feel like this was the first legitimate chance that Oklahoma City had to win a championship, and they did it. They played 2 Game 7s. Was it just the 2? Was it Denver and Indiana, or was there one more? I think it was just the 2. And they won a championship. They did it. If you want to say this was their second attempt, it's really hard. It's really, really hard to do it once. And they kind of just did it. I'm not going to say they moonwalked, because it was a world where things did not go their way in Game 7. And folks, I think this is where we now jump into the part of the show where we talk about one of the more just all-time air sucked out of the room, dagger through the heart moments for Indiana Pacer fans, for NBA fans around the world. We're 8 minutes into this Game 7. Tyrese Halliburton's knocked down 3 threes. He's mean-mugging the crowd. This motivation that Indiana has. You know, Oklahoma City's already painted the buses. They already got their championship buses painted. The truth is that all teams do that. It was just very dumb that whatever social media intern or whatever leaked that video is very, very irresponsible and dumb. But everybody does that. The same way that there are Indiana Pacers championship shirts on their way to fucking Ethiopia right now, right? The shirts have been printed, the buses have been painted, but it was very good material for Indiana to get juiced. And Rick Carlisle made it known that they had seen it, right? Tyrese Halliburton certainly looked like he saw those damn buses, and then 8 minutes into the game, that calf strain that he had been fighting through really took its toll, and he ruptured his Achilles. And we all saw it the second that replay happened. You see the pop. It was very akin, as everybody's pointed out, to the Kevin Durant Achilles tear in 2019 against the Toronto Raptors. An injury, by the way, that he suffered because he was also battling through a calf strain, right? And so it is funny, actually, just as a quick aside, remember when Nico Harrison traded Luka because Luka had a calf strain and Nico wanted to rush him back, and Nico was like, Luka was like, I'm not going to rush this injury. I need to get healthy. And then Nico traded him? Okay. If I'm a Pacer fan, I'm never getting over that moment for the rest of my life. Ever. That's not hyperbole. That's not prisoner of the moment. That is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to be the biggest preseason underdog in the history of the NBA, to have the greatest story in the history of the NBA as a team, and in an instant, 8 minutes into that game, it's over. And I say it's over, despite the fact that going into halftime, Indiana was up by 1. You're going through that first half. Lisa Salters actually, I think, asked Shea about this at the end of the game. She was like, I thought it was kind of like a weird time to ask him about this, but she wasn't wrong. I just thought it was kind of like weird timing. She was like, that Halliburton injury almost seemed like it affected you guys. Like it affected the Thunder more than it affected the Pacers. It was like, it was very much a knife fight between, 7.5 minutes left, or like 6.5 minutes left in the first quarter, to halftime when Indiana was up by 1, I think we were all kind of thinking, holy shit, they might do this. They might do this. And then when Siakam wins Finals MVP, he's going to be like, no, this is Tyrese Halliburton's. The team is going to be like, no, this is Tyrese Halliburton's. Right? And it was hard to lock in. It was hard to lock back in after that moment because you feel like you were robbed. You feel like you just witnessed something like the domino effect of guys like Tyrese Halliburton and Jason Tatum and Damian Lillard all rupturing their Achilles in the span of, 2 months. The ramifications of that are massive. But if I'm an Indiana fan, man, it was hard to, I don't want to say it was hard to care. It's still a game 7, but it wasn't the same game. And even thinking about it, I don't even know what to, like, I'm still really, really bummed out about it because when you saw him go to the ground and you see him screaming, no, 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 oh God, no. As soon as one of the trainers comes over, you see him say the words, I did. I think that's what he said. I did, or it did, or something like that. You have to imagine they were like, I don't know what they asked him, but he knew in that moment exactly what happened. I've never ruptured my Achilles before. It's never popped. I like to imagine I would know immediately. It seems like one of those injuries that, if something happens in your knee, it could be a lot of things. When your Achilles pops, it just kind of is what it is. The absolute devastation was palpable. And for the Pacers, for the rest of the half to be able to rally, and you're thinking, all right, it's going to be the Pascal Siakam game. And then you're thinking, oh my God, it's going to be the TJ McConnell game. So many dogs on that Pacers team, and it's crazy that you're going to, you are going to, I think I mentioned this earlier, you are going to have people like discredit Oklahoma City for winning this championship. It's going to be annoying, but like, don't listen to them. There's a little bit of truth to it. Like, hey, we don't know, but like the game is the game, man. Like that's what happened, and Oklahoma City won the championship. I'm a grown-ass man, and I no longer entertain the idea that, that championship's not valid. Right? But I am just so unbelievably crushed for a team that I don't want to speak for everybody, but I think a lot of us were rooting for more than anything else. There's an interesting case with Oklahoma City, how they were the favorites to win all along. They dominated the regular season. The way that everybody expected them to. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander played the way that everybody expected him to, and then some, and won an MVP. And you're not really seeing anybody bandwagon Oklahoma City. Like, it's just not really happening the way that it has with other championship teams in the past. And man, it stinks a little bit if you're an Oklahoma City fan that you're not really going to be able to talk about this series without, I'm not going to say like an asterisk, oh yeah, Halliburton blew out his, but parenthetically, remember when Halliburton, I just feel like that's going to be the lasting image of this series. And if you're a Thunder fan, listen to this right now, you might be saying, I don't give a shit. A rang is a rang. That's what I'm going to remember. I'm not trying to downplay it at all, right? I think I did a good job in the first 15 minutes of articulating how impressive this was for Oklahoma City. But you know what I mean? Like, you cannot talk about this series without talking about what happened 8 minutes into Game 7 and how it fundamentally changed the trajectory of the series, and it fundamentally flipped the outcome on its head. To make it seem a little bit more, predetermined's not the right phrase, but like, it seemed like way more of a sure thing at that point that Oklahoma City was probably going to do it. Again, I say that in spite of the fact that Indiana made it very competitive through halftime. But once the third quarter started, it was over. You had a stretch in between the end of the third quarter and the start of the fourth quarter where Oklahoma City was on a 19-2 run. Yes, Indiana, at the end of the game, they were down by like 18 points and ended up making it like a 10-point game, or maybe they got into like high single digits or something. But there was 2.5 minutes left. There was not enough juice. You think about Siakam and you think about TJ McConnell, two guys. And Halliburton's in this too, man. Everybody on the Pacers is. Miles Turner. This is 10 years of work for Miles Turner. And it just feels like we were robbed. And even if Oklahoma City ended up winning the game, right? It's because it's not about that. It's not about Indiana would have won if Halliburton didn't get hurt. It's not about that. But it fundamentally changed the game for the worse. And I don't know if I would be able to stomach that for the rest of my life. In 15 years, if I see a Pacer fan bringing this up, I'm going to say, yeah, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that this happened to you, because it's haunting, and I can't imagine what it must feel like for him, for Tyrese Halliburton. So that's a wrap on the NBA season. Oklahoma City, NBA champions. There may be a thing or two in there I forgot to mention. We'll circle back if we have to. But the other piece of major news that happened in the NBA on the day of Game 7, just hours before the tip, at about noon Central Time, Kevin Durant was traded to the Houston Rockets in exchange for Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks, the 10th pick in the upcoming draft that happens on Wednesday, and 5 second-round picks. Please be fucking serious. What? Now, we've got a lot of emails about this. A lot of emails about this KD trade. I've scoured the internet. I was all over Reddit. I mean, name a subreddit, name a team. The Bill Simmons subreddit, r/NBA, r/Ryan Russillo, r/The Adam Friedland Show. Motherfuckers were talking about this everywhere, right? It's such a polarizing trade, because none of the emails that you guys sent in and almost none of the commentary that I saw on the internet about this trade was like, nobody agrees on it. There's no consensus, which is a problem for me, because then I don't know what I think. If the internet doesn't tell me what to think, I don't know what I'm supposed to think, right? So I have to think very critically about, oh, who got fleeced? Oh, this is such a bad trade for Team X, right? Because that's the lens that we look at everything through. Somebody had to have gotten fleeced. So, okay, if you think about trading for Kevin Durant in the context of him being a 36-year-old, in the context of him being on an expiring contract, but is eligible for a 2-year extension. And if you're Phoenix, you got in exchange for that an all-NBA player, despite his age and his history and whatever. The package that you got for him was like 1 1/4 players, like 1 1/4 good players, a meaningful pick at number 10 in the draft. That's a good pick. And 5 second-round picks. Okay. That seems like reasonable to me. Like it's not a great package. What's bothering me is the amount of people who are singing Raphael Stone's praises because they didn't have to give up Jabari Smith. Because they didn't have to give up Reed Shepherd. Because that's what had been reported for the last week, was that one of those guys would have to be involved. Yeah, no fucking shit Phoenix wanted those players. No shit they wanted those players. There was never a world where you give up either of those guys for a 37-year-old Kevin Durant. I don't care if he's Kevin Durant. You're not doing it. The 2 future picks, the 2 future first-round picks that Houston owns that belong to Phoenix, reportedly, those were not on the table. That is where you can get a little bit like, what the fuck about this thing? But I don't think the young players, I just don't think that's a reasonable thing to be mad that Phoenix, of course Phoenix asked for those guys. Of course they did. We're also understanding now, nobody offered anything for Kevin Durant. Miami was straight up like, you can have Haywood Highsmith. What? Toronto was like, Jakob Poeltl off the table. Okay, well then you're not in the Kevin Durant business. I never saw any names, any packages that were thrown out for Minnesota, mainly because eventually all the reporting just became that there was some miscommunication, and I guess KD did not actually want to go there, and Anthony Edwards was actively avoiding recruiting him. He's like, I'm happy with our guys, and it's not my responsibility, and I'm not going to do it, right? So even if they did pull it off, it would have been a gross trade, and it wouldn't have made any damn sense, because aren't both teams in the second apron? So like you couldn't have really done, I don't know. I that part of it, I don't know. But okay, so everybody lowballed Phoenix. That's because there's not that much value. It's not about KD on the court. It's about if we don't there's also the piece of it, by the way, where Phoenix had to do this right now. They had to do this before the draft because they needed a pick. And to get that 10th pick from Houston, I just don't think is nothing. And so I give them a little bit of credit there. You also had to trade him now, so that's something about so he's eligible for the extension. There's like a date that they had to get it done. So there was a lot of pressure to try to get this done, and I think other teams knew that, and so that played into them lowballing Phoenix for Kevin Durant. And Houston was just the one that they just kind of like. It's not the same thing, but just the principle of there were a lot of teams who were in on the Kawhi business before he got traded to Toronto. And Toronto was immediately shot down, but they just said, our offer is on the table. You can have DeMar DeRozan and wasn't Pirtle in that deal and stuff. Call around other teams. We'll still be here. And they just held out and they won. I think that's similar to what happened with Houston here. Now, the other piece of this, which both we on this show and everybody else in the media has covered in the last few weeks, is if I'm a team trading for Kevin Durant, I will be a little bit wary of giving anything up for him. Not just because of his age, not just because of the contract, not because of the injury history, which he's not he's not injury prone. I'm just saying, it's because after Kevin Durant left Oklahoma City, he has forced his way he didn't force his way to Golden State. He went there, I don't want to say legally, but he just went there in free agency. So it's not like he just didn't re-sign with Oklahoma City, right? But anywhere that Kevin Durant has ever gone, after 2 years, you start to hear the rumblings. And then after 3 to 4 years, he's on to the next team because he forced his way out, right? I love Kevin Durant. I think he's the best scorer I've ever seen in my life. I think he's the funniest poster in the history of the NBA. I wish he still did burner accounts. He's the funniest man in the world. But what is true is he was upset in Golden State, and he forced to sign and trade to Brooklyn. Could have gone to the Knicks, but he didn't want to. He wanted to go to Brooklyn with Kyrie and DeAndre Jordan, and eventually James Harden. And then what happened? After 2 years, he was like, maybe not. And then I think it was the third year that he got traded. Oh, he went to Phoenix. Oh, okay. And then after 2 years in Phoenix, it was a year ago right now that he wanted to get traded to Houston, and Phoenix was like, no. And so if this is your forever home, this, you would imagine, will be the last team that he plays for. I'm not, especially if I'm Houston and I've done as well. This is where you can give Raphael Stone his flowers, is how well he's drafted, right? I would push back a little bit on the Reed Shepherd thing. I know, look, he's 19 or 20 years old, and so this is maybe where I'm a little bit confused on why people were so attached to him. He didn't do anything last year. I think he had a game where he scored 25 at the end of the year, and that was cool. The last 2 weeks of the season, he got some run and he played some good games, but that was because I'm pretty sure Houston had their seating locked up and they were just kind of whatever, dog. But he was on the bench for a quarter of the season, and he was in street clothes for 15 games outside of the 20 games that he was dressed and just didn't play. So what am I don't understand. I don't get it. You're a top, what? He was an early pick too. I'm genuinely asking, by the way. I'm not trying to be an asshole. Is it just that he was a 19 or 20, however old he is, and Houston is a very good blend of veterans to young guys who have experience, right? You think about Fred VanVleet versus Alperen Şengün, right? Something like that. They have a good mix of guys in there. And Reed Shepherd just needs time to get some run. Is that all that it is? Because otherwise I was throw him in the trade. I don't give a shit about this at all. But I think Houston did a really good job of using their leverage to their advantage. This is where another thing I give Raphael Stone credit for was the leverage game. And I think they gave away a pretty acceptable amount. If I'm Phoenix, what I think sucks the most is that I didn't get my picks back. Even one of them, I didn't get them back. Because, so wait, you're telling me I couldn't do Dillon Brooks, Jalen Green, the 10th pick in this draft, one of our future firsts that are ours, that Houston owns, and take away 3 of those second-round picks. One future first is 3 second-round picks? Is that not, does that math not, I don't know what what is it when you're, what am I trying to say? What's the exchange rate? First round picks to second round picks. Is it 2? Is it 3? Is it 4? Is it 5? Could they not have gotten a single second round pick if they wanted one of their own first back? Because at least now, if you're Phoenix, well, those are still 5 picks. You know, even if we don't make all of them, which they will not, it is still 5 picks. I don't think Phoenix got killed in this trade. I don't think Houston got killed in this trade. This is a great trade for Houston. It's impossible to say that they got killed. I hate it because I don't like optically Kevin Durant in a Rockets uniform. I don't think that looks cool. If I'm Phoenix, okay, so Jalen Green and Devin Booker, huh? So Booker is getting traded. There's no way. There's no way. Because if you didn't get, quote unquote, anything for Kevin Durant, Book is the guy that you will get shit for. I don't know if, even if Beal, A, didn't have a no-trade clause, or B, would waive his no-trade clause, what do you get for him? Like, if I'm a GM, I don't know, if the numbers are still there, which the number that you'd really be paying attention to is how much damn money he's making, I'm just kind of like, I don't know. You've been pretty cool and complacent and chill, the 3 C's. You've been triple C, Bradley Beal, with being a loser for a while now. And I just don't really know that I would give up anything for him. And so, but again, he has the no trade clauses, and he's rooted, dog. He's getting paid, and he's gonna chill in Hottsdale and go to the Waste Management Open and ride off into the sunset, very literally into the Grand Canyon. Good for him. Devin Booker is your get out of jail free card. And maybe that's a little lofty, but he is what will jumpstart what is undoubtedly the bleakest outlook in the NBA right now in Phoenix. How long ago was it that Matt Ishbia was in front of a microphone talking about, like, it's not bad, it's not that bad, we're doing okay right now. This is not a hard situation to dig ourselves out of. Did they make a dent with this Kevin Durant trade? 1.25 good players and 6 picks? Yeah. I just kind of think that's it. That's like what you were going to get for Kevin Durant. So that's why I say you always got to look at it through the lens of like, oh, this motherfucker got fleeced. I just don't think they did. It would have been nice if they got one of their picks back, but they did not. And then another thing in the NBA that I want to talk about is, all right, we mentioned it. The 3 guys the 3 players in the East who wear number 0, all tore their Achilles. There may be more than that, but what I'm saying is the common denominator between Halliburton, Dame, and Jason Tatum all popping their Achilles, they all wear number 0, and they all play in the East, which means for a conference that we've already been talking about in the NBA, how there is like a very real talent gap. The disparity is very real between the East and the West, right? And so when you think, hey, look, it seems like Giannis is not going to get traded, but, you know, if he did, it might be to the West. Even if it's not, the West is about to get Cooper Flag in a couple of days, right? So they're only going to get better. Now you have 3 of the premier players in the East. I don't know if you'd say that Dame is premier anymore, but that still matters to the equation that he's going to miss. Those 3 players are gone next year. They're gone, right? So now what you see in the East is like, are we kind of at an arms race right now? Which teams do you think are going to be comfortable staying pat? Like if I'm Orlando right now, if I'm the Magic right now, off of the heels of when did they trade for Desmond Bane? Less than a week ago? I'm feeling good. I'm feeling really, really, really good. And I'm not like cheering at the expense of, you know, Tyrese Halliburton's injury last night if I'm Orlando, but I noted it. And I said, holy shit, that trade that we just made looks way better now. And so you're the Knicks. Let's get a coach. First, let's get a coach, and then let's figure out personnel-wise what we want to do with the roster, right? But first, we got to get a coach. What are they going to do? Are they a stand pat team? Are they a do something with Cat team? I don't know that that's where they would look first. I'm just throwing out a name, right? If I'm the Cavs, I just had the most embarrassing season, since probably like early LeBron days when they just couldn't field a competitive team. Or like, who did they lose to when LeBron didn't hold up his end of the deal in the finals? It was Orlando, right? That they lost to Orlando in the maybe the conference finals or something. And it was supposed to be LeBron versus Kobe in the finals, and it wasn't because the Cavs, maybe the most disappointing Cavs season since then, you think? You win 64 games and you get bitched. Sure, Cavs fans. Yes, you very banged up. There were a lot of injuries. That does not change anything, though. Do you now look at your roster and say, do we need a major shakeup? Like, who's the guy that... There was a rumor that the Cavs were even like a stealth team that, kind of poked around at the Kevin Durant thing. That would have been really interesting. Are the Cavs a stand-pat team? You think about Detroit. Do you feel confident with like a deteriorated East that now you can go out and win 50 games just on the strength of running it back? We don't even need to do this. Go get like Santi Aldama or some bullshit. But like, we don't even need to do a Devin Booker trade or a Lauri Markkanen trade or a, God forbid, a Zion Williamson trade, right? They could, if they want to like ensure that like if this is our window, we want to attack this window. Well, they didn't have Jaden Ivey in the playoffs. They didn't have Jaden Ivey for, what was it, a most of a half of last year, the back half of this last season. Well, the season that just ended yesterday. They didn't have Isaiah Stewart in most of the series against the Knicks. So, like, they could have won if they had both of those players. How confident do you feel? You get what I'm saying? This changes everything. These injuries in the East completely change the landscape and the scope of things moving forward. And I just think, to take it back to what I said at the beginning, are you going to see an arms race in the Eastern Conference where Atlanta's another good team, by the way, that I would keep an eye on here, for a team that kind of just like blew up their roster at the deadline. And if I'm Trae Young, I'm kind of like, what the hell was that? Where am I looking? Do I want like Zach LaVine? I don't know. They have a damn 20 some odd $20 million trade exception. Do they want like a Zach LaVine? I don't know. I don't know what it is. I'm just throwing stuff out there. Do you pick talent from the West? And that's how we start to balance this thing out? Because if that would be what stinks, I think, is if the East just kind of like cannibalizes itself and they just do like some like inter-conference trades. I think that would be a little bit annoying. If we're going to shake some shit up, like let's really shake shit up. I mean, the three players that I mentioned off the top of my head, you can throw Kevin Durant in here too, by the way, even though he went from a Western team to a Western team. Kevin Durant, trade candidate, West. Zion Williamson, West. Lauri Markkanen, West. Devin Booker, West. John Morant, maybe, West. Jaren Jackson, maybe, West. Zach LaVine, maybe, West. So like all of the guys that we're talking about, if I'm Boston right now, and this is what I was talking about earlier, I went from my own like mental train of thought was like, okay, the Tatum injury happened. We have this new private equity owner who's going to cut costs. Some guys are going to get traded. This roster is going to see a major shakeup. And we'll see what happens. It's easiest to point to Jaylen Brown making $71 million in like 2 years and be like, okay, it's probably going to be you. And then the Celtics just take a gap year while they wait for Jason Tatum to come back. And then whatever capital or whatever players they get in return, you just hope it works out. It gets you under the apron, right? Now I'm not so sure. Now I think you just focus on what do we do with Drew? What do we do with Porzingis? What do we do with, somebody want Pritchard? Somebody want Derek White? I don't know. The Celtics have like 5 guys making $30+ million. Crazy, crazy business. And so what I'm saying is, at this point, you want Jaylen Brown to have his own team? Nick, you talk about Jaylen Brown have his own team? He's going to have it next year. He's going to have it in Boston next year. And with a conference that has been, I don't want to say kneecapped because it feels a little bit too on the nose, although your Achilles isn't in your knee. I'm looking at it and I'm saying we could still do something. I don't know. Do you rule out the Pacers? I don't want to fucking do that right now. That's not cool and that's not nice, and I really, really don't want to do that right now. Alrighty, folks. Some other stuff that I wanted to get to today. Apparently we're 50 minutes into this episode. I guess I'm not doing emails today. Sorry about that. Because I still have more, like a lot, so much more to talk about. I want to talk to you guys a little bit about something that happened to me yesterday. Because I am not feeling good about it, and it sucked a lot, and you may hear me say this and be like, I don't know why you would tell anybody that, but I think it's important that when bad things happen to me, I tell you them so that when good things happen to me, you are able to appreciate them just as much as I am and be happy for me because you have been there through the lows, right? So yesterday, I got to leave the house by myself for the first time since October. And I went and saw a movie. I saw 28 Years Later. We'll talk a little bit about that later. And on my way home, Maddie texted me. She goes, hey, can you pick up some diapers? I said, yes, I can. And I take my little electric bike and I go to Target. And while I'm there, she goes, can you also get some formula? I say, yes, I can. Now, the problem was the only diapers that they had in our son's size was like the massive box that has like 50 diapers in it. And I was very irritated, but I was like, I just have to get it. It's also like $45. So I'm like, okay, whatever. I'm like, I don't really know how I'm going to bring this home, but I have a tote bag with me because if I leave the house, I bring my little red corduroy tote bag. Because like, I don't know, you never know when you might get something. And so it's nice to have a little tote bag on you, right? So I go, it'll fit in my bag, whatever. And then I get the formula, which was $55. And then I passed the beer. And I was like, you know what? Game 7 is tonight. Let me grab a sixer, right? So I walk up to self-checkout. I have this is a very long story, by the way. I walk up to self-checkout. I have diapers. I have formula. I have beer. I scan the beer. Obviously, somebody has to come over, scan my ID. No problem. Woman comes over, scans my ID. I was like, what? She scans it again. She goes, I'm sorry, this is expired. I go, fuck. My birthday last week, my ID expired. I completely forgot that I have to renew it. I go, I'm so sorry. I'll put it back. And she's like, no, I'll put it back, whatever. Okay, so I'm not getting the beer. Pretty embarrassing for that to happen, but like, whatever. So at that point, I'm just kind of scrambling to like get out of there, right? So I grab the diapers, I grab the formula, and I start walking away, and I'm trying to put everything into my tote bag. The diapers, that's way too big. It's not going to fit in my bag, and it's just not working. So I like go, and so I'm not going to be able to fit the formula. So I go back and I steal a plastic bag. For those of you who don't know, in Chicago, you have to pay 7 cents if you want a plastic bag. So I stole a plastic bag, put the formula in there, and then when I eventually got to my bike, on the front of the electric divvy bikes here in Chicago, there's like a little basket. There's a little basket. And so I put I don't know how to explain this. I had the box, this huge box of diapers in my tote bag in this basket. And I took the handles, like the straps of my tote bag, wrapped them around the handles of the bike so that I could hold them and like hold it tight down. Do you get what I'm saying? So while I was riding, it wouldn't move. While I was doing that, I had to wrap the plastic bag also around the handle that had the formula in it. I put it around the handle of the bike. Okay. So I'm like just trying to hold everything steady while I'm on Michigan Avenue. Those of you not familiar with Chicago, Michigan Avenue is the busiest street in the city, right downtown. That's where everything is. And there's a lot of traffic. It was a Sunday. There's a lot of traffic. I'm on Michigan Avenue for about 2 minutes on the electric bike, and I hit a bump in the road. When I hit that bump in the road, the box flips into my lap from the basket. It flips into my lap. So I'm in the street, like trying, and I'm freaking out because like it's completely flipped. If I move at all, these diapers are just going to fall into the street and get run over by a car. I'm in the road because I have to be. I'm freaking out. While that happens, because my bag also flipped, my wallet flies out and it's in the street. I start shouting, fuck, at the top of my lungs. I don't know what to do, and I can't even pull the handbrakes because of the way that my hands are positioned trying to hold everything together. So I deliberately crash into the curb just to stop. When that happens, 2 people outside of the lobby of a hotel, 15 feet away from me, start dying laughing. And they're talking about me as if I'm not literally right there and can't hear them, dying laughing the entire time as I'm sweating my ass off. It's 100 degrees with 80% humidity. I'm like having a panic attack, just yelling fuck at the top of my lungs. My bike is crashed on the side of the road. I got diapers everywhere. My fucking wallet is in the middle of the road. I'm scrambling to get everything together. Eventually I do. Took me a couple minutes. I get about 2 blocks down the road and I realize something. I don't think that's everything. I think there has to be something else. I just need to. I turn around. I'm going the wrong way on Michigan Avenue. I go back a block or two, and thank God I did. The keys to my fucking house in the middle of the road. As soon as I go back to get the keys, if you can't see what I'm doing, they start fucking talking again. Those people. Oh, he's back. Oh, he's back. They start fucking laughing again. I'm not even acknowledging them because I'm like for real having a panic attack. If I pull up my Oura Ring right now, and I show you guys like the stats, I'm literally doing it. And if you're watching today's show, you'll be able to see how stressed I was. So if you want to take a look, this right here is about when things were happening for me, right? Very, very stressful time. I'm freaking out. I go on my way. And after about 5 blocks, the plastic bag that had been holding this massive container of formula rips. And I catch the formula as it's falling out, and I just have to like sit it in my lap. And I'm on so you get and I'm 20 minutes away from home, and so for 20 minutes I'm just like sweating my balls off. I can't breathe. The heat is so intense. I'm like using so much energy. I'm about to pass out. I'm like, I don't think I'm going to make it. I can't do this. Eventually I get home and everything's fine. When I tell you it was the most humiliating like 20, 30 minutes of maybe my entire life, I'm not kidding. Cause like it just felt so shitty. It's one thing if like I'm riding down this, like if I didn't spill baby stuff all over the place and it's just like, I don't know. I crashed my bike and a bunch of vapes and like basketball cards fall out. They're everywhere. I guess it's funny. It's diapers and formula. This shit isn't funny, bro. And good for me for being so locked in and so like freaked out that I didn't even acknowledge them. Because in any other instance, I feel like those are 2 people that I would have gone off on, and somebody might have been dead by now. So that really, really sucked. That really sucked. And it contributed to why the show is coming out a little bit late, because I used so much energy and I psyched myself up so hard. I got so like panicked and freaked out that it like fucked up my headspace for the rest of the day. And then also the Halliburton thing didn't really help, but I was exhausted. And by the time the game ended, it was 10 o'clock Central Time. And I was like, I can't do the show. I'll just push it a little bit and do it tomorrow. So that happened. And folks, I want to talk a little bit about this. I did see 28 Years Later. Now, no spoilers yet. Use the timestamps to your advantage here. First, I want to talk a little bit about 28 Days and 28 Weeks Later. So I believe very firmly that those are the 2 most important pieces of like zombie media that have ever been made. People will point to Romero's Night of the Living Dead as the Godfather because it literally is. He invented the genre, right? The truth is the movie sucks. The movie's not good. The movie ends with a guy getting killed because it's not worth explaining. The movie came out almost 70 years ago. It's not a good movie, but it's important, right? I think 28 Weeks and 28 Days are so important because they are the most original, they are the most unique, and they have the most distinguishable and identifiable camera movements maybe in the history of movies, right? And I think what Days created, Weeks perfected. And what you saw in 28 Days was this super, super raw. I mean, they shot it on cameras, obviously, on like these like shitty Canon cameras to really capture the essence of this barren, like post-apocalyptic almost landscape of London, and it was very effective in that. And there were also these techniques that they used, and very like from a technical perspective, I don't really know how to describe this other than just like how I view it. 28 Days Later does this effect where it's so punched in and in the action, and then they also almost like chop the frame rate up. So it's very disorienting. I think some of that may have had to do with the cameras, but they also continue to do that both in weeks and in years, honestly. Not to the extent that in years that they did in the previous two, right? And I think that from that perspective, the punched in choppiness of days, I think 28 weeks, was just so masterful in perfecting that. And I think 28 Weeks Later, the first 10 minutes of that movie are some of the most gripping that you will ever see in a movie ever. Like, I would wager that there is no worse nightmare fuel in the history of movies than the first 10 minutes of 28 Weeks Later. And I also think that it presents one of the most raw and authentic decisions that like a human could ever make in a movie, like a moral decision that somebody could make. And so, it's a soft spoiler. The movie's been out for 20 damn years. I like to imagine anybody who wanted to see that movie has probably seen the movie by now. But my other favorite thing about both of those movies, honestly, is that they have like sneaky, bizarre casts. Like the cast of 28 Weeks Later, Idris Elba, Jeremy Renner. Is that all I can remember off the top? I guess that's all that I can remember off the top of my head. But there are a lot of people in that movie, right? So I have always held those two movies very close to my heart. I think as far as the genre goes, I know they're not technically zombies. It's a rage virus, but like, yes, they are. They're zombies. They're the most two important pieces of media that the genre has ever been introduced to the genre, right? I think World War Z is up there too. It's one of the highest grossing movies of all time. And it's also just really, really good. And it's Brad Pitt. Now we get to 28 Years Later. And folks, this is where I am just going to straight up talk about the movie. So I'm giving you a second here to do what you need to do. I don't know if I'm going to keep talking after this. Maybe the show's over. 28 Years Later. I've been very excited about this movie for a long time. I texted my brother and I said, like a week or two ago before it came out, I said, this movie is going to show us something that we have never seen in a zombie movie before. Like, I really felt it. I just knew that with how inventive the first two movies were, there was going to be something in the movie, whether it was like very technically speaking, whether, with the way that they shot the movie, which was on iPhones. And we knew that from the moment that they started filming it, how many of these sequences were shot with iPhones or like almost like not shitty drones, but like, they use drones. The series has been so inventive, and so if it wasn't that, then it was going to be something with the actual like ragers, the zombies themselves. There was going to be a sequence where we see something that we've never seen before. Holy shit, sniped that one. Oh my god. Huh? Which one do you want to start with? Well, let's start with from like the technical perspective. Look, I know that these rigs exist. I've never seen it done this way before. And maybe it has, but I've never seen it, and I've damn sure never seen it in a zombie movie. So I'm going to do my best to explain this to the audio listeners, but this is going to be, I'm going to be using like my hands because it's easier to use like visuals, but I will still try to walk you through it. So for a lot of sequences in this movie, mainly in like the first act and a half with Aaron Taylor Johnson, they were using these bullet time rigs, which are essentially about half circles that kind of look like this, right? How do I do this? Like this. And imagine on each of these, on every single part of the rig, there's a camera on it pointing to the middle, right? So you got about 10 or 15 cameras all on this half circle, all pointed towards the middle of the circle where the subject is supposed to be. So you have this rig, and the subject will stand either in the middle of it or at the end of it, and the rig will follow them, right? So you have 10 or 15 angles of this one thing happening. So what you would see was a zombie, in the middle of this bullet rig. Aaron Taylor Johnson shoots it in the head with an arrow. It would start with the angle on the far left, and you would watch the zombie get hit in the head with an arrow. Action, freeze frame, rotate to the other side of the bullet camera, resume action. Holy shit. I can't describe it to you unless you've seen it. It was jarring. It was some of the most it was so good. The cinematography in this movie was brilliant. The visuals were brilliant, right? These wide shots that they were doing. It was a beautiful, beautiful movie. That was something I've never seen before. You know what else I had never seen before? A zombie giving birth. Man, oh man. That was a thing that happened in the movie, and I just kind of accepted it while it was happening, and I just really tried not to think too hard about it. I think any other movie, if it wasn't a series that for me was beloved and that I really just am bought into, I would have rejected it and I would have hated it. But I just kind of let it happen. And I think my biggest issue is right now in my life, I just can't stomach when anything happens with kids. And so the first 5 minutes of this movie were fucking brutal for me, because you knew it was going to happen if you watched any of the trailers, that children were going to die in this movie, and they sure did. But when you introduce a newborn child into this thing, and it's like a real life baby that they have in this environment, it was really, really hard for me to watch. And I was like, if they kill this baby, I'm going to leave the theater. And they didn't. And clearly the baby will be important for the future movies that they make in this series, because there will be at least one, but I believe there are scheduled to be 2 more movies. Yeah, man, I had a lot of fun watching it. I guess people in my theater didn't. 4 people left and never came back. That's the first couple left within the first 20 minutes. I don't know if they just didn't realize what they were getting themselves into, and it's a pretty weird first 20 minutes. It was edited. I thought the way that it was edited when they're doing these flashbacks between like medieval times and shit like that, and I really liked it. I thought it was very I thought it was jarring, but it was equally gripping. That on the heels of a bunch of kids getting murdered. I guess maybe murdered. Zombies. Do they murder people? Is that really how it works? I don't think so. They have intent, but that's not really. I don't know. They just straight up left. They never came back. And then the other part, the 2 more people left when that Swedish soldier showed up. And there was kind of a lull for 15 minutes. There wasn't that much going on for 15 minutes between his introduction and the zombie baby happening. There wasn't that much going on. It was just kind of some world building with Spike not knowing what the fuck a phone is, or what the internet is, or what delivery drivers are, which was very interesting world building, because you have an entire generation of people who have been quarantined in the United Kingdom. They don't know about the outside world. And so I thought that was really interesting. They left during that and they never came back. And I was like, that's such a weird time to leave. I've seen 9 or 10 movies that Aaron Taylor Johnson is in, and he is tragically underused in all but 2 of them. And the 2 would be The Wall, because that movie has 2 fucking actors, and Aaron Taylor Johnson is one of them. And then Bullet Train. I would have liked him more in Bullet Train, but he is he's a main part of the story, so you know what I mean? That doesn't really count. There was a movie that he was in. I haven't been able to remember what it's called. It's called Something King. And it's him and Chris Pine's in it. Florence Pugh might be in it, or it might be Jodie Comer. I don't remember who's in it. It's a little bit of a violent movie. He was good in that. He's brilliant in Tenet, but he's just not in Tenet enough. I've seen so much of what Aaron Taylor Johnson has done because I really, really, really like him, and I think he is going to be the next James Bond. And it narratively made complete sense that he got to be in the first half of this, and Jodie Comer got to be in the second half of it. Jodie Comer, equally brilliant. I just wonder if, the way her career has gone, is the last duel going to be, the only time that Jodie Comer really gets to, get her shit off and flex as an actress? Because I think she's really, really good. I just would have loved to see more Aaron Taylor Johnson. I almost it's tough to have a guy like Ray Fiennes be in this movie, and then you don't really get to see him that much until the third act because he's just so good. But he had an essential part in this story, and I just really liked it. It was not. I don't think it's the best one. I think Weeks is definitely my favorite, but showing, a 30-year gap between these movies, essentially. I mean, it's 28 years, but, a 3-decade gap. I think, people are mad there weren't as many zombies in this movie. I'm like, yeah, they're in a super desolate part of Scotland. They're in the Scottish Highlands. Even if there wasn't anything going on, there wouldn't be that many people up there outside of the little towns and villages and shit like that. So when you couple that with the fact that it's been 30 years since this breakout, like, yeah, like people have died off. The infected have died off. Like, it's not a major population center. Like, I don't know. Was the movie scary? It was scary, but it was very predictably scary. So I actually didn't spend, I am very much a plug my ears, watch the movie through my fingers ass bitch. That is how I watch scary movies. But I like watching scary movies, but I don't really like being jump scared, right? I didn't really do that at all in this movie because I've just been around the block with these movies, and you just know when it's going to happen. And so, yes, it's very like, there it is. And it's, you get a little bit of like but, I don't know. I liked it. I really, really liked it. What else do I got for you guys today, folks? In the previous episode, we spoke a little bit about the possibility that the United States would join the Israeli aerial campaign in bombing Iran. And we specifically mentioned the bunker busters, and we specifically mentioned the uranium enrichment facility in Iran, Fordo, which is, or was, or is still, at the base of a mountain, dog. A mountain. And that was one of the reasons that Israel needed the United States to join this campaign, was because the United States is the one that has these bunker busters, and their capabilities. It's a 30,000 pound bomb. It's capable of driving, several hundred feet into the ground before detonation. And so it was really a question of, well, how many do you have to drop in there? They dropped 12. They dropped 14 of them in total, 12 of them on Fordo. It happened. We learned, probably like 36 hours after we put that episode out, via Truth Social, that the United States joined this campaign in what Donald Trump and his cronies have called a sort of one-off. We were just doing this. We're not at war. This Operation Midnight Hammer was meant to deteriorate Iran's ability, their nuclear capabilities. They said it was an overwhelming success. Operation Midnight Hammer was over 100 aerial aircraft from the United States, a lot of Predator missiles, a lot of bunker busters, again, 14 of them in total, 12 on Fordo. And Iran responded by closing off one of the major shipping routes in the world in their control, something that they've threatened to do for pretty much my entire life, but now they actually did it. We immediately started to see members of intelligence and other anonymous spokespeople of the United States backtrack on the actual damage that was inflicted. We also started to hear reports, not just from Iranian state media, but elsewhere in the region and abroad, that the Iranians expected this, and they had removed all of their uranium from these facilities well in advance. So what exactly did the United States hit, and why did they do this? Well, you're telling me, let's assume that's true, because I don't think Iran's dumb. I don't think they were like, oh, they're not gonna hit these enrichment facilities. I very much believe that they pulled everything out. You're telling me that two of the greatest intelligence agencies in the world, between Mossad and I don't want to name intelligence agencies specifically, but like the United States and Israel have two of the strongest intelligence apparatuses in the entire world. They didn't catch wind of the fact that all of the uranium had been pulled out. Oh, they probably did, because it was even Pete Hegseth during his press conference the morning after Trump made this announcement. He said that intelligence and reconnaissance aircraft had been circling the area for some time. They knew. They knew that they weren't bombing anything, which means that it could be happening right now at the risk of fear-mongering. Over the next week, if and when Iran starts targeting United States military bases in the region and Americans potentially die because of that, it will have been for nothing. They will have died for nothing. American troops could die for no reason. That will be all that Donald Trump needs to get drawn into this. And we will find ourselves in another endless, forever war in the Middle East that was started unjustly, unconstitutionally, because we did the exact same shit that we did 20 plus years ago. We joke on this show about Colin Powell lying to the United Nations about Saddam Hussein possessing weapons of mass destruction. And that being what gave the United States the green light to go into Iraq and topple their regime in 2 weeks. And after 4 weeks, we found Saddam Hussein, and we found out there are no WMDs. Oh, well, there are no nukes, but there are chemical weapons. Where did Saddam get those chemical weapons? From the United States. And he killed the Kurds with them. And then as soon as it was convenient for the United States to be like, look at this fucking guy, they took their chance. The false pretense of weapons of mass destruction is what got us into a war that lasted for almost 20 years. They lied to do it. They're lying right now, and it's happening again. Trump appointed Tulsi Gabbard as the director of intelligence. And she's the one all month. They are not building nukes. They're not building nukes. They're not building nukes. This is the enriched uranium is for scientific purposes, and it's for the Iranian power grid. They are not building nukes. He doesn't care, dog. He just doesn't care. And so you watch this unfold, and I think everybody's kind of arrived at the same conclusion, which is the thing that would come next in this scenario is probably something that we can't really even comprehend. And what I mean is, by the United States conducting this operation in the middle of the night, unbeknownst to most of the senior officials in the United States government, including the fucking vice president of the United States, Trump didn't even tell J.D. Vance that he was going to do this. He also apparently, when Trump was doing his press conference, or not even his presser, he was addressing the nation and saying that this operation happened. He just recapped it. Apparently, J.D. Vance did not coordinate in the Signal chat with Pete and Marco Rubio and Trump what color tie they were going to be wearing. So I don't think J.D. Vance is really in the boys' club anymore. But what I'm scared of is that by doing this, you now activate every single terror cell, not just in the region, but potentially domestically in the United States already. We have been warned a lot in the last year that something could happen, and that it's about timing, and that it comes down to what's happening in the Middle East, what resources are being expended to the Houthis or to fucking Hamas or to why can't I think of the other guy's names? Not Al Qaeda. Why can't I think, or ISIS? Why can't I think of the other guy's names? Hezbollah. When the timing is right, America will get its October 7th. America will have another moment where it is under attack. And it will be something, it will be of a scale that is incomprehensible, and it could be something that radicalizes the country just like it did 24 years ago on September 11th. But even when September 11th happened, the United States had to spend 2 years selling the war. Nobody understood who we were fighting. Nobody understood, so what does Iraq have to do with this? I'm scared, because what does it look like? And look, I should have said this at the beginning of this segment. We haven't done crazy, like, conspiracy, tinfoil hat, like real sicko nasty shit on this show in a long time. I'm scared. And I think a lot of you at home are too. This was wrong. This was the wrong decision, and that is a fucking understatement. We talked in the last episode about how some of the most prominent anti-war voices in America are Tucker Carlson and Marjorie Taylor Greene and Steve Bannon and Candace Owens. What's going on? If something were to happen, I will not be able to help myself from being like, false flag. False flag. Because what do? If you wanted to... Look, I don't even think I should be saying any of this into a mic. I don't know. What happens if a bunch of ICE agents get murdered? A bunch of ICE agents get shot. And they pin it on an Iranian nationalist, a jihadist, an Islamic terrorist. All you have to do at that point is say, see, if you're anti-ICE, you're pro-Iranian, and you're the enemy. Right? I don't know. How far away are we from a massive drone attack? Not even in the United States, anywhere in the world, but like a terrorist attack using drones. That technology, the capabilities have existed for 5 years. I don't want to say it wouldn't be hard to do that. It wouldn't. It wouldn't. Is this suicide vests? Are we going back into planes? What does this look like? When you're seeing, Doug, even when I was downtown yesterday and I was talking about being humiliated for 30 minutes, the police presence was shocking. Shocking in downtown Chicago. I know it's been the same in DC. I've seen it's been the same in New York. It's the same in Los Angeles. There's a little bit of a different reason why it's the same in Los Angeles. The principle remains. America is on high alert. Military bases in the region, in the Middle East, are on high alert. This happened because Trump got strong-armed by Netanyahu? We talk about the conflict in Ukraine, and we talk about what Israel is doing to Palestinians, and how both of those are proxy wars. It is not Russia versus Ukraine. It is not Israel versus Palestine. Tens, if not dozens, I'm being too lofty. In total, in both of those conflicts, 10 to 12 countries are involved, right? These are global conflicts being looked at through the lens of a one-on-one. They're not. They're not. We are in the war right now. The starting gun just hasn't been fired. Maybe it just was in Iran, by the way, with these bunker busters. People are waiting for this Pearl Harbor moment. People are waiting for and maybe that could still happen. We're already in it. We're seeing 4 different cargo flights from China flying into Iran and turning off their transponders just before they get there. They said they were going to Europe, but they certainly diverted course in a very strange way and turned off their transponders as soon as they got into Iranian airspace. That's interesting. We're hearing Vladimir Putin being the fucking peacemaker of this whole thing while he continues to rain down artillery in Ukraine. This is not Israel and the United States versus Iran. It will tear apart the region. It will cripple global markets. Economies will crash. People will die. They will lose their homes. People will die unjustly. If ground troops get sent into Iran, the United States cannot just exit that war. They will get destroyed. You can get in. Good luck getting supplies in there. Good luck traversing those mountains. Good luck with that. In Trump's address to the nation, he said, this is a country that has said death to America and death to Israel for 40 years. It's been a little longer than that. It's about 46 years. The Islamic Revolution in 1979, he was right. They have been saying that. It's not for no reason. 1 million people just died in the region within the last 20 years because of the United States. If you go back to the early 1900s, Iran spent 50 years under economic and territorial occupation at the hands of the British. And as soon as the people had a democratically elected leader who leaned a little bit socialist, at the height of America's Red Scare and killing communism around the globe, an American-backed coup took him out and rendered him ineffective. Didn't kill him. It is what led to the Islamic Revolution in 1979, where an ingrained piece of politics and culture was distrust of the West, and specifically distrust of Americans. It is the most complex region in the entire world because there's almost too much history. There's almost too much to wrap your head around. I don't know everything. I hardly know anything. But it's been so easy for people, namely those in America, to strip it of its context or to not even check under the rock to begin with. Because we've been conditioned for the last 30 years that these are terrorists, that these are people who want to see you dead. There are 90 million people in Iran living their lives just like you and me and elsewhere in the world who would also be affected by this. Everybody in the world will be affected by this if the United States continues this assault, which they will. Because there's no chance that Iranian state media, reporters up there, anchor, talking at the desk, his backdrop was like a cartoonized version of an Iranian soldier standing in front of a burning down White House. You think they're fucking around? Dog, this isn't Afghanistan. This isn't Iraq. This is the country that in my lifetime I never thought we would fuck with. Because you can't. This red line cannot be crossed, and it has been. Unjustly. And if and when, and God forbid, he declares war, he will do it without congressional approval. Americans do not want this war. They are lying to you about Iran possessing weapons of mass destruction. Netanyahu has been talking for 30 fucking years about the Iranians being weeks away, months away from being able to build a bomb. Can I show you something? Can I show you a graphic I saw from Fox News the other day? It may take me just a moment here to pull it up, but I really want to. This graphic came in from Fox News, and I'll try to show you. I'm just going to show you on my phone how quickly Iran could enrich uranium for nuclear weaponry. And I'll give you a second to look at that. 2 to 3 days, a month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months. This is Clinton era. This is Bush era propaganda. You can't... Look, I know you at home listening to this, I don't think you're falling for it. But you have loved ones that are. We cannot be drawn into this conflict. We already have been. Folks, if you're listening to this on Spotify, I love you. I really do. If you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts, what's up? What's up? If you are watching this on YouTube, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, nice little comment for the algorithm. Make sure to keep primary control in check. And I will catch you guys in the next one.